More importantly, let's get right to it.
Let's go.
Let's jump on the airplane. Let's fly out to Austin, Texas.
Austin.
UFC on ESPN 37. I would say a great place to eat, but I know Court McGee's getting ready to come on, and it's, fight week. Oh, Court McGee's on the line. Court, how are you?
Good. Not eating a bunch of barbecue, that's for sure. Maybe
Well,
after.
As soon as I knew you were coming on, I'm like, no, we better not talk about barbecue in Austin, at least right out of the blocks. It's been a while. How are you doing?
Good. Doing really good.
Another fight week, obviously not your first. You've had many of these. What's fight week like for you, and how will you get through the next couple days?
It actually slows down. I mean, I have 3 sons. I have a 17-month-old son, an 11-year-old son, and a 15-year-old son. And so I'm real active all the time, and I got stuff going on, and they got their sports, and then all my training. I also am part owner in the gym, McGee, Jujutsu and MMA in Provo, Utah. And so I'm real busy there. And then I'm a wrestling coach for a high school, my son's team. And so between all that stuff, training, preparing for a fight, getting ready, then it's like fight week here, and boom, it slows down. So I'm kind of like walking around. I'm like, oh, man, where does Isaac need to go right now? And I wonder what Crew's doing. I wonder if Nash is doing this. And I wonder what my wife's up to. And then I have to slow down and go, okay, hey, it's fight week. Time to just sharpen the knife. So that's what I'm doing this week. Just getting my weight down, getting focused, go back to 1 practice a day, and then get sharp, get ready, go out and perform.
So you don't basically want your family to know that this gives you a little time to slow down a little bit for the next couple days.
It's almost like a break. I mean, obviously there's the extremes to it. You know, the weight cut is not. I mean, I do it professionally. I stay focused. You know, all through the fight camp. I had 67 practices leading up to this fight. You know, and the meals were prepared the way I wanted them, and so everything's dialed in. Especially, I mean, this is like my 24th time I've fought in the UFC outside of the 4 fights I had in the Ultimate Fighter house, which I count those. I know they aren't on my record, but I count them. They were UFC fighters.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, talking about coaching your son, what kind of coach are you with your son? My dad coached me, and I still tell this story, and he loved that I would tell it, and he's probably listening to me wherever he is. He passed away a couple years ago. But when they voted for the All-Star team, there were 6 teams in the league. 5 head coaches voted for me to be an All-Star. My dad voted against me because he never wanted anybody to say that he gave me anything. How difficult is it for you to coach your son?
It has its challenges. I have 2 or 3 coaches around us and around him that he listens to well, because I'm his dad, and I have high level practices, I have high level training partners, high level coaches, and so he doesn't want to listen to me most of the time. So it's kind of like I bounce ideas off these other coaches, and I let them coach him. At certain times, he does let me coach, but I'm not a hard coach. I'm not I'm pretty specific, and I've, I don't know, 12 or 13,000 hours of mat time, so I've got the experience, and it's like I can just help guide him. But he found wrestling as an 8th grader. He turned it up. He just finished this season with 132 wrestling matches.
Wow.
And that's the preseason, folk style wrestling. High school season is freshman season. And then the postseason, the freestyle and Greco season. We got quite a few Greco matches, a ton of freestyle matches. And I was able to be there for all of them, I think with the exception of about 15 to 20 of those matches. And so I had great coaches there that were able to coach him and help talk to him after matches, good matches, tough matches, all that stuff. So I'm just, I'm kind of I like to have an open mind towards it. That way he doesn't feel pressured. It feels like it's his sport. It feels like he's doing something. He's learning the lessons. And that's how I am. Like, you can't coach me hard. it's I don't need somebody screaming at me. Like I can push myself on an assault bike during conditioning, like to the brink of complete exhaustion and past that on my own. So I'm very self-motivated, but not everybody is. So where I can give him a little bit of push and I can pull back, and it's all about the experience and trying to be a positive role model, a positive coach. Look at the positive attributes, and where he's struggling, hey, let's work on this. Let's work on this. So I guess that's kind of the long version of the coach that I am.
There's nothing better than, coaching, kids, but coaching your son. You'll never get that stuff back, and to experience that and do that, it's outstanding.
Yeah, it is one of the highlights of my life.
You mentioned, obviously, the Ultimate Fighter. I believe it was season 11. We still continue to have each week's winner on, which we do at 3 o'clock Eastern. We'll have last night's filmed winner on. What do you remember from that season other than obviously holding up the trophy?
Oh, man, just having an Olympic gold medalist as a coach, the boxing coach, Howard Davis Jr., having the Olympic silver medalist, Sammy Henson, John Hackelman, Chuck Liddell. Like, I remember the first fight I walked out to, it was like Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, Mike Tyson, Lorenzo Fertitta, and Dana White. Like, literally the 6 most important people you can compete well in front of. And then, like the pre-fight, like, go out, give it all you got, and don't be the guy that goes home, the loser that thinks, I wish I would have done more in that fight. And, like, extreme pressure, corners that you didn't usually, like, that you weren't accustomed to having. Man, it was just like, it was a great learning experience, like challenging, the nerves, the anxiety, working through all that stuff. Man, there were so many great experiences. And then I met, friends and people that I've kept in contact with, guys that I fought. I had experiences with great coaches, like I met Jake Shields and then became training partners and worked with Jake Shields for years and years. Man, it was just a blast.
Hey, of course, so along those lines of the Ultimate Fighter, from an outsider looking in, it looks like it's like the ultimate fraternity house, right? Are there alumni events? Do you guys get back together from like either guys from season 11 that you were in, or is it like a collective of all the years, or are you still welcome
Secret
on campus?
handshakes?
Yeah, like, are you welcome back to the Apex? Can you walk in and just hang out because you're an alumni? Like what's it like after the Ultimate Fighter?
I mean, you keep in touch with the guys, but they're fellow competitors, so there's a possibility you'll compete against them. So unless you're teammates, it's like there's like I fought Nick Ring in the house, and then a couple years later I fought Nick Ring again. But we've kept in touch all these years, and 6 or 7 of those guys had 10-plus fight careers. Brad Tavares is still going strong, but we don't like get together and do anything. When you go to the Apex or you go, it's nice and it's memorable to see the posters up there and to look at them, but there's no we don't get back together. And that's probably because, we should be the ones that are doing that, and we're not. I'm not. But I do keep in touch with quite a few of the guys, see where they're at, what they're doing, root for them if they're still competing. And as far as my knowledge, Brad Tavares is the last one, me and him.
Interesting. Obviously, I know what your relationship was with Chuck Liddell, and I talk about this often. Chuck and I are still friends to this day. I don't know if I go back all the way to UFC 1. And what would it be like? And I know when I say this to athletes, they're like, we had our day, I had our day. Don't go back and say, what if today? What would it be like if Chuck Liddell was 27, 28, 31 and fighting in the UFC today?
Dude. As far as competitive, or what would it be like?
Yeah, just how far MMA and the UFC has come, from back, Ultimate Fighter 1 when he was a coach, and then again, obviously in 11, the fans that are now here that were not back then. And, Chuck was huge then. What would Chuck be in your opinion? I just had him on my show on Radio Row at the Super Bowl, and Joe Montana stopped to try to talk to him. So he's still huge, but how much bigger could he be?
And he will always be. He will always be huge. If he came back, because like in the height of his career, he was like 36, 37 and murdering it. But if you brought him back 8 or 10 years before that, he would still be a superstar. That dude is so competitive. I remember I came in and like I pride myself on being real competitive, especially when it comes to conditioning. And there's this really hard practice called rowing and wrestling. We did this rowing and wrestling, and then at the end of the week we do these sprints on the treadmill. And you know, it's like I didn't have a coach at the time, so I called Chuck after I got out of the house, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to need some coaching. You know, what do you think about John coaching me?" He's like, "Hold on, I'll call you back." Booked me a flight. I moved in to Chuck's house, and I trained side by side with him leading up to his fight the week before mine in Canada, and then my fight was the week after. And that was his last fight in the UFC. He fought Rich Franklin. It was supposed to be Tito, but he ended up fighting Rich Franklin. And my very first session was the hardest conditioning session I've ever had. And you're supposed to hold him down after you do this really hard row. And I kind of let him up, and he looked at me and he was like, "Hold me down." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like, dude, so I stuck on him. I tried my best to hold him down, you know. And he still got up, man. He fought up to his feet. The end of that week, we did our sprinting conditioning session, and it was like really hard practice. And then you get on the treadmill and you do a 30-second sprint, 30-second rest, 30-second sprint, 30-second rest, or something in between that for 5 minutes, and then you would turn it up to 11 and 11 miles an hour, 11 miles an hour, 11-degree incline, and you had to stay on as long as you could. And I stayed on until my legs gave out, and it was 47 seconds. I remember it like yesterday. And I hopped off that, and I was like, there's no way Chuck is going to beat that. Dude, he hopped on that treadmill, and he was in worse shape than I was in. And I was in pretty good shape. And, dude, he got 48 seconds, 1 second longer than me. And he hopped off, and he looked right at me. And he was like, "You know what the difference between first and second is? 1 second." I just won. And, like, I just was like, oh, my God, like super competitive. And that competitive nature would come out right now if he was 27 or 30 years old. And, dude, that's what made him a champion. And then also being personable. I never, in the whole 10 weeks I was there, and all the years that I've spent with him off and on, he's cornered me in fights. He cornered me on my birthday, December 12th, when Connor fought Jose Aldo. He has never turned down an autograph. I never watched him turn down an autograph. I remember he was peeing, and somebody's like, "Dude, can I get a picture?" And he's like, "Yep," and like gave him the thumb, looking over his shoulder. You know what I mean? And I was like, "Dude, this guy is a champion."
Without a doubt, you know, he got, you know, just bombarded on Radio Row from celebrities, media, fans. There was fans outside. Chuck is awesome. I love the guy to death. But you're getting back in the Octagon on Saturday. Let's move on from the great legend Chuck Liddell, and let's talk about your fight on Saturday and your opponent. What are your thoughts on Jeremiah Wells?
Well, like I don't ever watch footage on any fight that I've ever had. Like, the most I knew about the opponent I had was when I fought Carlos, just because I'd seen Carlos fight for years and years. And outside of that, I don't watch any footage, not 1 second. So I give it to my coaches, and I let them direct my practice. Hey, let's work on this. Let's work on this. That way, I'm just working on things that'll win. And I keep it completely out of my mind. But I know he's explosive. I know he's got some body locks. I know he submitted somebody. I know he dropped somebody. So it's like lateral movement, keep my hands high. I have a world bronze medalist, Greco wrestler, basically a USA Wrestling Hall of Famer as my training partner and coach. And so we worked a lot on that. And I've got great jiu-jitsu guys. I've got quite a few black belts that I work with, competitors and just black belts. And I have a host of short, stocky, explosive strikers. So I worked with those guys. made it real specific, focused on things to do to win and attacking first and winning positions. So I'm ready to go. And it's like I had the 67 practices. So I've got 67 practices and maybe like 13,000 hours of mat time previous to that. I'm ready to rock and roll. And it doesn't matter who it is, but Jeremiah Wells, that's the next one. I'm going to come out. I'm going to figure out how to beat him.
Court, a lot of times I even say that it's, when I ask, what do you know about your opponent? And then I end it with, does it even matter? Because it's what you're going to do to the opponent, not necessarily what the opponent is doing or going to do, correct?
Exactly. I had a guy years ago that had with the right hand, they would drop their lead hand on a jab, and he'd catch him with the right hand or come over top of it. And I watched him do that like to 4 guys right in a row. And I watched that footage, and then that's all I worked on. That's the whole time. That's all I worked on. That right hand never came over my jab. And so I thought, you know what, dude, after this, and I ended up losing like a close decision to him. He was a great, big, strong guy. And I thought, okay, well, we really got to work on our strength so we can deal with the strength. He's not the strongest guy that I've competed against. When I tied up with him over-under up on the cage, he didn't have near the strength I thought he was going to. So all the things that I anticipated and trained for weren't there.
Didn't happen.
So I'm kind of like, man, all right. And then you got it in your mind, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, rather than, hey, me attacking, me winning positions, attacking first, winning positions, win the fight. It's like, I'd rather be in that mindset.
For sure. Is it still fun for you? I remember, and I don't know if you know who Marcus Jones was. He played in the NFL. He came over to the UFC, was on the Ultimate Fighter. I think it was UFC 100. And Marcus and I were very good friends, and he always told me about the NFL. He goes, I don't like football. I'm just good at it. And that's always stuck with me. And so I'm curious, after an athlete has a long career like yourself, do you still love it? Do you still, love it as much as you did day one?
I do. The love has changed. I love the preparation. I embrace the fight week. The stuff it's like it's more memorable now, and I don't take myself so serious. Right? It's like sometimes, hey, yeah, this is a big fight. It's a big opportunity, and I get that. But my whole identity is not that of just a UFC fighter. Right? And so 6 or 7 years ago, I thought about hanging it up. And I had to really question, hey, why are you in here? Because I went to the Octagon one time, and I thought about the $53 in copper money I stole from a boss that I had 9 years earlier. And I was like, dude, I got to pay that guy $53 back. And I'm walking out in Australia to like 22,000 people thinking about the copper money that I stole 9 years before and scrapped. And I thought, I got to pay this guy. And then I started thinking, what the hell am I doing? Why am I thinking about this right now? And I did not want to be there. And it wasn't fun. It's like I didn't have that reason. And fast forward about 2 years, I found a reason, and it was to carry the message to people that struggle, especially those in substance abuse and alcoholism, drug addiction, that there's a way out. And maybe it's not fighting, but if I can do it, you can do it. And that passion came back, and I haven't lost that passion in my conditioning and my strength training and showing up to grueling practices. And that desire to be there is still there. That excitement is still there. When I step in the cage, that excitement is still there. It's still elusive. I yearn for that 2.5 minutes into the first round when it's just you and me, and now we'll see what you have. And me bringing what I have in training and in my heart to find a way to beat you, and that's still there, and I haven't lost it.
I can't wait for Saturday. I mean, I know that you're a motivational speaker, and I know, Matt, you claim you are as well. I'm now motivated. I can't wait for Saturday for you to get back in the Octagon.
Awesome, man. Exciting, dude. Me too. I feel better than I've ever felt. I know I'm 37. I know, it's like, oh, well, he's been in the UFC for 12 years, and But I'm telling you, like, I'm confident, and I want to be here. So those are two powerful things, man.
Absolutely. What in closing, what can the fans expect? When the Octagon door shuts on Saturday and you're in there.
They can expect the best crusher they've ever seen, the best Court McGee they've ever seen, and I'm walking in there with 30 million people in long-term recovery. You got a powerful motivation.
I didn't want to keep you too long. I know that we try to keep these short, and since you brought it up, my grandfather and my uncle both ran drug rehab facilities in Kensington, Pennsylvania. Kensington, which is a part of Philadelphia, and I'm sure you're aware Kensington is the #1 heroin capital of the world.
Yes.
And I was involved with my uncle and my grandfather, and through their program, I remember it like yesterday. I was in the 3rd grade, and every time the patients, if that's the right word to call them, went through the program, if they passed, they would then get a 2-week trip to Florida, and they would stay a week in our house, my parents' house, and my siblings and I, and then a week down in Miami, and just seeing and hearing these stories. And like you said, it's very, very powerful. And I remember what they did, and I know from past, what you're doing as well. How can people, reach out and help you, whether they need help or whether they're able to help you, help other people? How can they do that?
They can look up McGeeproject.org. It's the foundation that I started. And I mean, it primarily, we do some speaking for events like open to the community, high schools, universities, any recovery community, juvenile justice, some institutions like penitentiaries, and we help kids. We get kids into gyms on our PunchPass program. We keep up with them. We really give kids an opportunity to come forward and ask for help. So if they want to support us, they can go to the McGeeproject.org and take a look around, make a contribution if you're interested in doing that, and that would be very supportive and helpful for your community and for somebody who reaches out.
Good enough. And, we'll continue to talk about it. Best of luck. Have fun on Saturday. I'm sure you will. I know we have your address. Yep. We're going to send you a care package from 8 Man Strong for coming on and talking to us. And hopefully we can talk again real soon.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you, everybody.
Take care. That is Court McGee back in the Octagon Saturday night. UFC on ESPN 37.
37 already.
Coming to you live from Tournament to Pizza. This is Knockout Radio, brought to you by 8 Man Strong and Staff Zone. We'll be right back.